Alright guys, welcome to part 2 of my movie collection where I talk about my favorite 80s comedies. Last left off with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which I got 2 DVDs left to show. Before we get down to the VHS tapes, and let me pull them over here. Alright, we're ready. The next film I like to talk about is another John Hughes comedy, Weird Science. This is with Anthony Michael Hall, Elin Mitchell Smith, and Kelly LeBrock. And this also stars John Capellos, in which Anthony Michael Hall and John Capellos were also in 16 Candles and The Breakfast Club, which are 2 other films I'm going to talk about later on in this video. But this is where these computer geeks are single and they don't have girlfriends, so with their computer they create the perfect woman, in which and it's also spawned a short-lived TV series, as it says here, but yeah, this is another film that totally represents the 80s, so that would be a good one to check out. And the next one I picked is another Fred Savage film, and this is from 1989, and it's The Wizard. And this is about Fred's this kid who wants to run away to California, but because he's suffering from a mental disorder after his sister died, and he's just really way too depressed about it, and Fred Savage and his older brother are also having issues with dealing with their dad, and so Fred Savage decides to run away and live in California, and he picks up his little brother, and they run away, and then they stop at a bus station and meet this girl who's also running away, and they discover that the little kid has special talents at being really good at Nintendo games. Like, they play Double Dragon, Ninja Gaiden, Zelda, Mario Brothers, things like that. This is basically a movie about Nintendo games, basically. And so these three are heading to the Video Game World Championships in California, where it's being held, and they try to win $50,000, but they're also up against some other guy who's like impossible to beat because he's good at every single Nintendo game. And yeah, this is if you like video games, then this would be a good one to check out. Alright, that's it for the DVDs. Now on to the VHSs. And the first one here I picked was the Tom Hanks film Big, in which this deals with Tom Hanks' character. Well, he's basically a kid, but he goes to a county fair, and there's this wishing machine in which he wishes that he was bigger and he was an adult. And then when he wakes up the next morning, his wish came true, and then he has to get a job, and he comes across Elizabeth Perkins and falls in love with her, and basically he has to get a job at this ad agency. And this is another good movie. It's a little bit sad too, but it is what it is. And the next one is another John Hughes classic, The Breakfast Club. And I'm pretty sure everybody has seen this movie. It's about these 5 kids who are stuck in Saturday in detention, and they have nothing in common with one another. They're all different. And so, like, all day they find out everything about each other and what they're dealing with. And yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody has at least heard of this movie or seen it. So if you haven't seen it, you definitely should check it out. And the next one is another John Hughes film. See, John Hughes made a lot of great movies in the 80s. In the 90s, his movies kind of went downhill a little bit, but there were still a few good ones in the 90s. But in the 80s, his movies were superb. And it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and pretty sure everybody's heard of this movie too, or seen it. At least seen it maybe once or twice or heard of it. But this is about Matthew Broderick's character who's getting ready to graduate, and basically he won't be having any fun after he graduates, so he gets his best friend and his girlfriend, and they all go out to Chicago, to downtown Chicago, and like explore the city all day and screw around. And Matthew Broderick's principal is planning on catching him in the act because he's trying to prove to the kids that he's a bad influence on him because he's the most popular kid in school. This is one of the best John Hughes films ever made. Next to The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles, basically a bunch of the movies he did in the 80s, as well as Home Alone. And the next one is a Disney one, and it stars one of my favorite actors, Rick Moranis, and it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I also have Honey, I Blew Up the Kid and Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, but I'm going to show that when I do my favorite 90s comedies. But this is basically about Rick Moranis, who's an inventor who invents this shrinking machine, and every time he tries to get it to work, everything gets screwed up. But his neighbor's kid hits a baseball through his attic window, and when his son and the neighbor's kid try to go and get it, they accidentally get shrunken down, as well as the neighbor's kid's brother and the sister. They all get shrunken down, and they get taken out with the trash, and then they end up in the backyard, and it's the size of a jungle. And when they're trying to cross it to get back home, they end up coming across all sorts of major catastrophes like bees and ants and scorpions, lawnmowers, that kind of thing. This is another awesome movie. And in part 1, I showed National Lampoon's Vacation and European Vacation. Well, I also have National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's where the whole entire family comes over for Christmas and dealing with all sorts of like situations and cliches during that time. And yeah, this is another great movie. Like, all the National Lampoon Vacation movies are good. And and Vegas Vacation, the 4th film I'm going to show in my favorite 90s comedies, but that one they didn't have the National Lampoon title above it. I don't know why, but anyways, the next one I picked was the Steve Martin film Parenthood. This also stars Tom Hulce, Rick Moranis, Martha Plimpton, Keanu Reeves, Jason Robards, Mary Steenburgen, Diane Wiest. Basically an all-star cast, and it's about Steve Martin and his family. Like 3 different parts of his family, or four different parts of his family that are having a lot of trouble in like raising their kids and stuff. And Steve Martin wants like to raise his kids the right way, and maybe his family should be doing the same thing. This is another pretty good movie. And the next one I picked was one of the 2 Pee Wee Herman films that were made. Big Top Pee Wee wasn't really my favorite, but what I would consider is Pee Wee's Big Adventure to be in my favorites. Pee Wee's Big Adventure, and it's about Pee Wee's bike getting stolen and him going across the country to try and get it back. Yeah, everybody I'm sure has heard of this movie. Here's another John Hughes classic, and it's 16 Candles, another film that totally shows the 80s. It's about Molly Ringwald celebrating her 16th birthday, and of course everybody forgets because at the same time her sister is getting married the very next day. And the next one is one with Anne Ramsey, and as well as Danny DeVito and Billy Crystal, and it's Throw a Mama from the Train. And I used to not like this movie, but now I love it because I rewatched it and I liked it better than I watched it the first time. But this also stars Kim Greist and Anne Ramsey. Anne Ramsey was awesome. She was also in Deadly Friend and The Goonies. The Goonies I would have put in this list, but I consider that more of an adventure film than comedy. So, but this is an awesome movie. Like, oh, Owen, the unsalted nuts make me choke. Yeah, I love this movie. I used to hate it. I used to hate it with a vengeance, but now I love it. And the next one is another Danny DeVito film, and also stars Arnold Schwarzenegger. One of the 2 comedies they did together, and it's Twins. They did another comedy in the '90s, Junior, but that one was all right, but it wasn't really in my favorites. But this is a funny movie when Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito are twins, but they're different sizes, as you can see. But they go on a cross country trip to find their lost mother, and this is another one I'd recommend. I've only seen it once, but I really liked it a lot. And here's another John Candy movie, in which this is one of the best. This isn't my all-time favorite, but it is one of his best, and it's Uncle Buck. And this is when the 2 parents have to go to Indianapolis because their father had a heart attack. And so John Candy volunteers to come over to Chicago and take care of the kids until they come back. And this is just John Candy's character was just one of his best. This is one of the best things that John Candy ever did. I miss John Candy. Everybody does. And the last one I would like to talk about is the live action and animation film, and it's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And to a lot of people, this movie needs no introduction. Just watch this. So I hope you guys enjoyed me talking about my favorite 80s comedies, and I'll do another video like this really soon. I'll probably do my favorite 90s comedies next. So until then, stay tuned for more videos coming up soon in the near future.